Greetings to all viewers of this video. Immortality is as long fascinating as humans. Numerous people have searched for the secret of living forever for centuries, but it seems like we've been beaten to it by our animal friends to the extent at least today we will be looking at 10 animals that can live after death. Make sure you stay tuned for number 1 as the creature just might be immortal. So stay with us, and if you like this style of video, subscribe to watch more videos. Number 10. Cockroaches. It shouldn't come as a surprise that these tiny little bugs would make this list. Cockroaches are infamous for their tenacity and are often cited as the most likely survivors of a nuclear war. Some even claim they can live without their heads. Well, surprise surprise, they can live without their hands. In fact, they can go on living for 2 weeks. To understand how these bugs can survive decapitation at first, we must understand how we fragile humans couldn't. First of all, humans bleed, and when a man's head comes off he bleeds a lot. Of cockroaches don't have that problem though. They have an open circulatory system, which translates to little to no blood pressure, so if their head pops off the wound discloses naturally due to clotting. And secondly, and probably obviously, human heads kind of hold a very important part of our body, our brain, and without a human will not function. Eating, drinking, and breathing are all impossible without a head. But cockroaches, on the other hand, don't need their heads to breathe, as they do the process through little holes located on their bodies called spiracles. Although the headless cockroach will die of starvation eventually, it's gonna take them weeks for them to do. Number 9. Bees. This might sound like a cop-out to you. No, bees die and they stay dead. However, there is a reason why they appear on this list, because even though a bee might be dead, it can still sting you, not in the way that you think. Of course, dead bees obviously can't go flying around and actively sting you, as that their stinging parts and more importantly the venom delivery system will still work even if the bee is long dead. When a bee stings, the sting detaches from its body, leaving it embedded into the skin of its victim. Attached to this thing is a tiny organ that both contain the bee venom and the tiny muscle that pumps the venom out. Due to the simple physiology of bees, these actions are not controlled by the bee's simple brain but rather by involuntary impulses. So if you think that you're safe picking up a dead bee, think again. Number 8. Chickens. There is truth to the expression running around like a headless chicken. After all, ask any farmer and they'll tell you chickens can still run around with their heads cut off, and there's a very simple reason for this, and it's not because chickens are zombies. Now the reason is, to believe it or not, human error. This error happens to be a butcher's error. To be more specific, you see, a chicken's central nervous system is very different from us humans. Some basic bodily functions are controlled not by the brain itself but by certain parts of the brainstem. So what does this all mean? Well, the butcher chopped the chicken's head too high. Most of the time it's just the forebrain of the chicken that comes off with its head, leaving the brainstem and the cerebellum quite intact. In fact, if the butcher also misses the jugular, not only will the chicken continue to move, it sometimes can still breathe. Of course, it eventually starves to death, but there is one special case that a chicken survived 18 whole months without its head. Number 7. The octopus. I'm pretty sure that you've seen videos online where an octopus, after being chopped up, continues to move. In fact, in certain Asian countries, eating fresh octopus is deadly delicacy. It's not really the octopus that survives after being chopped up. There are their 8 wily arms that continue to move about, and it's these 8 arms that usually get stuck in someone's throat, resulting in a very bad day. The reason why octopus arms maintain mobility even after being chopped off is quite fascinating. It's because their central nervous system is quite unique. You see, most of an octopus's nerve cells, 2 out of 3 of them, in fact, can be found not on the brain where you would expect them to be, but rather in its tentacles, and these arms can continue reacting to stimuli even if they are not longer connected to the main brain. In fact, they remain responsive even after the octopus has been long dead and the arms suffered. Number 6. Salamanders. If you're gonna come up with a list of animals that stubbornly continue to live even after apparent death, you'll be hard-pressed not to include the salamander. This animal has always been synonymous with long life and immortality. It's even revered by people who believe in magic, believing that the amazing regenerative powers of this animal can be considered paranormal. Salamanders have the uncanny ability to regenerate any part of its body that has been chopped off. More amazingly, these regrown parts actually function the same as or in some cases even better than the original parts. This is mainly because of a special protein found in salamanders that facilitate the replication of cells. This protein can also be found in humans but in smaller quantities, and they help us heal from our wounds. So does this mean that we can soon regenerate severed limbs? Well, we're not quite there yet, but scientists are continuing to study salamanders and how their unique ability can benefit humans. Number 5. Frogs. It has been discovered that frogs continue to move around even when they're brain dead. In order to put it more accurately, with its brain missing, this an experiment was brought about when scientists discovered reports of various headless animals continuing to move about. That's very impressive on its own, but let's face it, there's only so much any creature without a head can do. So what happens if you leave the frog's head intact but take out its brain? Ask. Well, thanks to the "let's chop out its brain and see what the hell happens" approach to science taken by 19th century neurologist David Ferrier, we can tell you a headed but brainless frog actually behaves very similarly to a frog with its green matter perfectly intact. If you turn it upside down, it will right itself. You pinch its feet, it will hop away. You put it in water, it will swim to the side and climb out, and perhaps most disturbing of all, it'll even croak intently if you stroke its back. The factor that results in frogs' zombie-like tendencies is the power of the reflex reaction, which fires the necessary electrical impulses that cause the muscle to expand or contract. Number 4. Flies. You probably have seen David Blaine resurrect dead flies just by touching them, and no, this is not because the magician really has supernatural powers. Flies can survive freezing temperatures and go into some kind of suspended animation. But you really see David doing is thawing the frozen fly using his own body heat. When the insect fully thaws, the fly then flies away. But this amazing ability to survive to freeze temperatures is not why the humble fly makes it to this list of female flies that will live for several days after they have been decapitated, such beheading females. Number 3. Turtles. The hearts of fish, reptiles, birds, and mammals alike have their own pacemaker cells that take over when the signals from the brainstem are not coming through for some reason. It ensures that the heart is still functions for a while even when the brain does not know. The turtle took the term "for a while" to a whole new level, and this is because from their heart's viewpoint, being cut off from the oxygen and nutrients usually supplied by the blood is just a normal day. Number 2. Even if it's no longer attached to the rest of its body, the snake has heat-sensitive pits at either side of its face which it uses to detect threats. Now let's face it, if you're close enough for your body heat to be detected, you're close enough to be considered a threat. These heat-sensitive pits are capable of detecting a threatening presence for hours after death, which means this thing may continue to defend itself zombie style. And yes, this even applies when the body is no longer attached. I saved the best for last, but first I have a quick challenge that takes 5 seconds. If you can leave like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it, it really worked. Number 1. Flatworms. Are you familiar with the old wives' tale about how earthworms reproduce? It states that if you cut an earthworm in half, 2 earthworms will form from the separate halves. Of course, this has since been proven to be complete hokum. However, substitute the earthworm with a flatworm and then this old wives' tale suddenly becomes a very true disturbing story. Flatworms or planarian are known as masters of regeneration. They can rebuild any part of their bodies after amputation. If one is cut in half, the head portion grows a tail, and the tail portion grows a head to cut it into 20 pieces, and 20 new worms, each an exact copy of the first, is created. Has been exploited by Nottingham University scientists who have created a colony of more than 20,000 worms, and guess what? They're all from one original whose bodies and organs do not appear to the age. They are confident the single worm which did not divide would live forever unless it catches an infection or another illness.